What is going on, beautiful people? It is what day is it? It is Saturday. The Wolves play the Grizzlies today at 2:30 on ESPN or Bally Sports North. I am nervous. I am anxious, but I am excited because this Wolves team matches up great against what is a very good Memphis Grizzlies team. We're going to be going over a few of the things I talked about yesterday, some stats that the players have against opposing teams. I'm going to give a little injury update on one of the Wolves players, some keys to the game, and maybe a prediction for the whole series. Let's go.
On a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay up! Oh my God! 30! No! 10! Touchdown!
Into deep left center from Mitchell, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. Brutal! David Guthrie is right there. Didn't have the guts to call it. Also, and Malloy!
The Twins are going to win the World Series.
Now fires into the end zone. Caught! Edwards on the attack. And Ants can fly. Touchdown! Ants off the feed. And Anthony Edwards showing that Ants can kill. No!
How did he get that one to go?
No!
Oh my goodness.
Carl Anthony Towns says, I want a piece of this Duck Fest.
And with that, we welcome you back to the Bold North Sports Podcast. On today's episode, this is a Wolves preview edition. It is huge. It is playoff season. The FedEx Forum is going to be hopping today in Memphis. The Wolves look to neutralize the home court. Target Center is going to be back on Thursday. I don't know if I'm going to be there, but if I do, I know that place is going to be jumping as well. I'm going to start off today's show with a few of my notes for today's Game 1 game. Let's take a look at them. Number 1, well, we'll start with 5, go back to 1. Number 5, limit dribble penetration for Ja Morant. He has set a record this year for the most efficient and most common, drives to the hoop. There is not a better player in the NBA at driving to the hoop. Now, the Wolves have a player in Carl Anthony Towns who is a center. Now, Ja is a guard. Carl Anthony Towns has been one of the most efficient and most prolific drivers to the hoop. But Ja Morant, there's nobody better in the game. The good news for the Wolves struggle against teams that shoot the 3-ball well, pass the ball well, kick out. Good news, Grizzlies don't shoot the 3 very well. They shoot 29th. There's 29th in the NBA in 3-point attempts, and they're like middle of the pack in percentage. And so that is very good news for the Wolves. Reason for why I felt the Grizzlies were one of the best matchups for the Wolves, better than the Warriors, better than the Mavs, better than the Jazz even. And people would think that's crazy, but this team, the Wolves, they set up good. I mean, they're 2-2 against the Grizzlies this year. They beat them by 43 points a couple of months ago. At home, they're 2-0. On the road, 0-2. So if they lose this game, wouldn't be surprised. But number 4, role players making shots. Basically, the bench. The Grizzlies bench is the best in the NBA. The Wolves bench, middle of the pack. So that is going to be something the Wolves have to neutralize. Malik Beasley, Taurean Prince, Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Noel, Nasri. These guys have to make shots. You got to move the ball. I expect a lot of Jordan McLaughlin too. I just didn't add him because he doesn't shoot the ball much. But he's going to facilitate this offense in a way that they need to happen. I mean, J-Mac is going to be ultra important. Chris Finch mentioned it in his press conference the other day. He didn't play in the two-state game against the Clippers. He expects him to play a lot today. And so Jordan McLaughlin's huge. Malik Beasley, maybe the most, not top 3 most important players on the Wolves, but he's definitely number 4. I mean, he can change a game with the way he can knock down threes. I'll bring up Taurean Prince a little later, an injury update. Number 3, neutralize the home court. Like I said, Wolves 2-0 this year at home, 0-2 on the road against the Memphis Grizzlies. And so if the Wolves can steal one of the first 2 games in this series. That would be absolutely massive. A lot of people are picking the Grizzlies to win in 5, some 6. I have the Wolves in 6. And maybe that's biased, but I just know that this team matches up fantastic against Memphis Grizzlies. Number 2, Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell need to continue what they did on Tuesday against the Los Angeles Clippers. Karl Anthony Towns, I do not expect him to have such a poor game like he did on Tuesday night. Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell basically carried the team to victory. If they want to win this series, they're going to have to continue what they did, whether it's D'Lo icing his veins in the fourth quarter, knocking down huge shots. Like, for great example, all year he's been doing that transition 3 where he just stops and pops. Hasn't been making it. Tuesday night, hit it. Massive. Anthony Edwards, you know he can do. He can drive. The Anthony Edwards versus Ja Morant, that's going to be very, very exciting. Reason for why a lot of people think this series is maybe the most entertaining series out of all the first-round matchups in the National Basketball Association. I didn't mention this. Actually, I'll just go to number 1 because it is. Pat Bev has to Pat Bev. If you know what that means, you know what it means. Patrick Beverley needs to muck things up. He needs to get Ja Morant off his game. Ja Morant mentioned that the media is trying to push this narrative that this is basically a Ja Morant versus Patrick Beverley series, and that it's going to get very chippy. Grizzlies, I will bring this up later again. They have not had Dylan Brooks in any of the 4 games this year against the Wolves. He is their best perimeter defender. He is their biggest talker. He is not afraid. He's a Canadian. He does not back down from anybody. But the Wolves have Patrick Beverley, and he is not afraid of a soul on this planet. Patrick Beverley is a very important key to the Wolves' success, especially on defense. Offensively, you can't expect a lot, maybe knock down a couple of threes. But the big thing, I expect Patrick Beverley to start the game on Ja Morant. Maybe Jaden McDaniels slides over. I hope Anthony Edwards slides over, because the last time these 2 teams faced off, Anthony Edwards absolutely locked down Ja Morant. I'll show you some numbers later about how that happened. But those are the notes for today's game. Next up, I want to talk about some of the stats these guys have against the opposing team. I mentioned this in yesterday's podcast, but maybe you didn't see it. Assuming you didn't see it. Let's start with this. Ja Morant. Check this out. In his last 3 games against the Wolves, 11 points, 16 points, and 20 points. Field goal percentage 33, 31, 28. That is not Ja Morant. Ja Morant is known as a very efficient player. He has not made a 3 in the last 3 games. Matter of fact, he is 0 of 14 in his last 3 games against the Wolves. Bad news, you got to think he might come back to the mean. Good news, Wolves have played him well. Anthony Edwards, a big part of that. Patrick Beverley, a huge part of that. This guy right here, Dylan Brooks, hasn't played in any of the 4 games this year against the Timberwolves. Look what he did in 2019, first game of 2020. 31, 26, 28. Dylan Brooks is not that type of player. He doesn't go for those big games. He's more of a, knock down a couple threes and play elite defense type of guy. But the Wolves have always had Dylan Brooks on their radar. He has always been a Wolves killer. And he is a huge problem if he gets going like that, because they haven't had him. He can be a huge X factor for them. On the Wolves side, let's check this out. D'Angelo Russell, in his last 6 games against the Grizzlies, 36, 37, 41, 27, 35, 38. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Now, it says he averages 23.4 in his career, but that's previous to when he was on the Wolves. Since he's gotten on the Wolves, unbelievable. Unbelievable numbers. Can they stop him? He's probably the Wolves' 3rd best player. If he can put these numbers up, that would go a long, long way. Anthony Edwards against the Memphis Grizzlies, he has had some big games. 42 points, 30 points. He also has had some bad games. The first game, I scratched that out because that was early in his rookie season. The last game, 32 minutes, 5 points, 1 of 11 shooting, 0 of 6 from 3. You got to hope that doesn't happen again for the Wolves. in any of the games this series because you know he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Anthony Edwards is just you know that a lot of what this series is going to come down to is late in the fourth quarter, who's going to have the ball. I've mentioned it before, but it's tough for a center like Cat to get the last shot late in games. It's primarily been D'Angelo Russell because he does have ice in his veins. But Anthony Edwards, the way he's been playing, he can get to that step back three whenever he wants to. I expect the Wolves to find that if they get late in the game. The coaching matchup, Chris Finch versus Taylor Jenkins, two of the most well-respected coaches in the NBA. Taylor Jenkins may win NBA Coach of the Year. The Grizzlies were not expected to be where they are, and they have 56 wins on the season. A lot of people saying the Wolves are basically a year behind where the Grizzlies are. So at this time next year, maybe the Wolves are the 2 seed. Maybe the Grizzlies are the 1 seed. Suns drop off. Man, this rivalry. John Morant in his press conference after the last time these two teams played said this is maybe his favorite matchup. Wolves players, Anthony Edwards said this is a rivalry. His teammates believe so. Could this be a rivalry for years to come? Two of the youngest, most exciting, flashiest teams in the NBA. This series is just going to be a blast. The home courts are going to be a blast. Let's look at this Dane Moore tweet about Taurean Prince. Yesterday, he said Taurean Prince is listed as questionable to play on Saturday in Memphis. Prince has missed the Wolves' last 2 games with right knee inflammation, but Prince has been participating in the non-contact portions of practice this week. This would be a huge get. Last game, I was extremely nervous that Taurean Prince being out because teams that double Cat, the reason they can do it is because Jared Vanderbilt is on the court or Jaden McDaniels. Now Vanderbilt more so because Jaden can shoot the 3 somewhat well. Vando, not at all. And so teams just drop their big. They put a small on Cat. I think the Grizzlies probably put Jaren Jackson Jr. on Cat. Steven Adams roams around the rim. Maybe that's who he has, Jared Vanderbilt. But if Taurean Prince is on the court, you can't do that because you can't leave Taurean Prince. Steven Adams can't leave Taurean Prince. And so that's why last game I was extremely nervous because Zubats was just paying no attention to Jared Vanderbilt. If they have Taurean Prince on the court, that makes a huge difference for the spacing on the court and the way the defense plays. If you can get Cat in a one-on-one, he can dominate. Teams have shown that if you can double Cat in a good way, he may struggle. Last game was his worst game of his career against the Clippers because they do a good job. The Clippers are the best team at what they do against Karl Anthony Towns. I don't expect the Grizzlies to do this. Karl's had a solid year against the Grizzlies, basically his averages, but that could be a big comeback for the Wolves if they can get T-Pain. Prediction for the series, I mentioned Wolves in 6. They're going to have to win one of these first 2 games. I think they'll win. I think they might win today. It's going to be tough. I think I mentioned earlier Dylan Brooks coming back. That is massive. I mean, massive, because not a lot of teams have a player that you can fill in like that. The Grizzlies match up good against the Wolves without him. Now they're just going to take another step forward with him. He is, like I said, a very good defender, is not afraid of anybody. He will get into it. Grizzlies media talking about the Patrick Beverley to Dylan Brooks comparison. They'd take Dylan Brooks over Pat Bev all day. I'll take Pat Bev. Give me Pat Bev. He ain't afraid of no one. He's not afraid of nobody. Anything else? I don't think I got anything else for you people today. I'll be back right after the game to recap it. Hopefully the Wolves win, and it is a positive episode. But other than that, I appreciate everybody listening. If you're watching this after, I appreciate you. Maybe leave a comment in the YouTube section of this video, and maybe I'll react to it. Go Wolves and howl. Let's go.